Yo, what's good, YouTube? It's Stories of Yanko back here with another video. Hey, I just want to say shout out to the new subs, man. Shout out to the people that's commenting, showing love, and I appreciate y'all, man. Like, I really do. And this video right here, this might be my most technical video ever. Like, just completely deep diving into the narratives and the cap that's out here, because I've been seeing lately on Twitter, some people, very few, are calling the Celtics a super team and the Milwaukee Bucks a super team. But the vast majority of people are just going out their way and say, oh, y'all think this is a super team? This is not a super team. This is not a super team. There's no way this is a super team. And it seems like people define a super team nowadays based on who they like and who they don't like. Because I could have sworn a few months ago they said KD was forming a new super team in Phoenix, right? But now the Milwaukee Bucks are the odds-on favorite to win the championship by a good mile, by casuals and by FanDuel, right? So if the Suns have a super team and the Milwaukee Bucks don't, how are the Bucks going to be the super team, right? Like, it doesn't make sense, correct? And it seems like because it's Giannis and Dame, two likable guys, and, you know, you have Jason Tatum, who always escapes criticism. I don't know how. Probably because he's light-skinned. I don't want to set us back 50 years with that statement, but it is what it is. But listen, I have done a little bit of math. Not only a little bit of math, I have gone into deep research, you know, just to try to break all of this down for you guys in this video. Because all the teams that were called quote unquote super teams for the last couple of years, let's say mostly in the 2010s, you know, early 2020s, they called those teams super teams based on the projections of what those players accomplished the previous season and them teaming up the next year, correct? That's what we always say a super team is. When LeBron chose to go to Miami and team up with D-Wade and Chris Bosh, they said it was going to be a super team, and it was the weakest move in NBA history up to that point, you know, before Kevin Durant, right? They said the decision, like it was a weak move based on what LeBron did in Cleveland, based on what D-Wade did in Miami, and based on what Bosh did in Toronto. So we're just going to go down on what the Miami Heat, I guess, like, the Heatles, the projection of what they were going to look like on paper. We're not going to mention rebounds, you know, defense, because at that point, all those guys were elite on defense too. So, you know, everybody had a right to feel the type of way that they felt about that team. And on paper, you know, let's just look at the points of what the Heatles were going to average. You know, because it did not turn out that way because Chris Bosh, he had to, you know, sacrifice his game. But on paper, this is why people call the move weak, right? LeBron, the year before, you know, the 2009-2010 season, 30 points. Dwayne Wade, 26 points. Chris Bosh, 24 points. You know what that comes up to? 80 points. Just based on their big three alone, right? But they called that a super team, did they not? Am I wrong? They called that a super team, correct? All right. So let's go to Golden State. The KD, Steph, Golden State, right? What did KD average the year before? 28 points. What did Curry average? 30 points. What did Klay average? 22 points. What does that equal up to? 80 points. They called that a super team, right? And then you got Draymond Green, you know, 14 points, but we're not really going to include him because it's a big three, correct? They called that a super team. Did they not call that a super team? They did. They did, right? So it's so funny how the two teams that have been labeled a super team that were successful both averaged 80 points between their, you know, well, projected, correct? Like, they were projected to average that many points based on them teaming up. Even though not every super team has had success the projection of them teaming up was like, oh my God, like it's over with for the league. And it was for a while, right? That's the reason why every time these big stars team up, people think it's just game over based on what the Heatles did and based on what the Golden State Warriors did. Sorry if I'm, coughing. It's just a lot of bullshit that I got to get out, right? But we're going to go on to the Brooklyn Nets big three. KD, Kyrie, and James Harden. All right? Kevin Durant, last year in Golden State, he got injured. 26 points. His stats went down because he had to play, next Steph Curry. Understandable. James Harden, the year before in Houston, 34 points. Kyrie Irving, even though he didn't play much in Brooklyn at that point because he had to go get surgery, 27 points. He's been averaging that for the last couple years, but it's pretty accurate, all right? That comes up to 87 points. They call that a super team. And keep in mind, Steve Nash was the coach. KD was coming off an Achilles rupture. James Harden just took off the fat suit. Kyrie had this stigma around him, and he was just coming off of surgery as well. But they still called that a super team, did they not? Yes, they did. Did they accomplish anything? No. But they said it was over for the league, and it looked like it really was. If KD and Kyrie and James Harden stayed on the court together, it looked like they were going to win a championship, no doubt. But it didn't happen like that. But they called that a super team. Keep that in mind. And there was no real notable names because Blake Griffin, he was on the other side of it. Like we had no bench. It is what it is. And that's okay. Joe Harris, we're not going to mention Joe Harris. Like, fuck Joe Harris. But it's crazy. They called those three teams a super team. I'm going to keep saying that. I'm going to keep doubling down on that so y'all understand and y'all follow along with me, right? So, they said Kevin Durant just formed a super team in Phoenix, right? That's what they said. Kevin Durant, what did he average this season? Now, this is the projection before the Beal team up because we're going based on last season. 29 points. He did 50, 40, 90 again, but 55, 40, 90. Booker, 28 points. And Beal, last time he played, 23 points. That comes up to 80 points. They said Kevin Durant formed a super team. And based on the Heatles, based on Brooklyn, based on Golden State, that is the definition of a super team. And I am not going to disagree with people saying KD formed another super team. And they just got depth over there, which is cool, right? That is a super team, correct? No disagreements from me. But here's my issue. They say Boston isn't a super team. They said Milwaukee isn't a super team. Now, let's go over to the Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis, last season, 31 points. Middleton, we got to have a little caveat because, he was coming back from an injury. And, even coming back from an injury, he averaged 15 points. But Middleton usually averages 20. So it's not that far off. All season, he'll completely up. I think he's going to come back and be himself. 20 points. Damian Lillard, 32 points. Just based on their big three. That comes up to 83 points. So you're telling me this is not a super team. And their big three, their big three is on track. The projection is on track with the Heatles, on track with the Golden State Warriors, KD Warriors, on track with the Brooklyn Nets, big three. But they're not a super team. And let's not mention the fact, because even though we're talking about big threes, what makes this also a super team is the fact that you have a runner-up sixth man of the year and Bobby Portis averaging a double-double coming off the bench. And you have the runner-up DPOY and Brook Lopez, right? Right. And Bobby Portis averages 14 and Brook Lopez averaged 16 last season, right? How is that not a super team? It's a super team based on the talent, based on the projection. Even if they don't win, it is still a super team. The Milwaukee Bucks are a super team. Just because y'all don't like Kevin Durant or LeBron James, that does not mean that these other dudes get a pass. If y'all say that they stack the deck, these guys stack the deck. And what kills me is that people were saying on Twitter, oh, you know, it kind of reminds me of the team that Denver had last season. Let me tell y'all, the Denver Nuggets, quote unquote, big three, even though it's not really a big three, but it's a big three because they're the highest paid guys on the fucking team. But Jokic, last season, 24 points. Jamal Murray, 20 points. You know, he was coming off an injury. Still 20 points, right? Michael Porter Jr., 17 points. You know what that comes up to? 61 points. These niggas are not cracking 80. Their big three does not crack 80. It doesn't even crack 70. They are not a super team. We all can agree on that. But to say the Milwaukee Bucks this upcoming season is reminiscent of the Denver Nuggets when you have that much talent more than the Denver Nuggets on the team. Jamal Murray has not even made an all-star or all-NBA team. Neither has Michael Porter Jr. How the fuck are they going to be similar to the Milwaukee Bucks? You have the runner-up DPOY. You have the runner-up sixth man of the year. You have three. Well, I'm not sure if Chris Middleton has made an all-NBA, but I know he's made all defense, but you have two all-NBA guys. You have three all-stars that are your starters because Chris Middleton has been an all-star recently, not saying like last year, but he's been an all-star in recent memory, regardless of however you feel about him now. Those are three all-stars, correct. We're not going to mention Brook Lopez, but the DPO, run-up DPOY and run-up six man a year, that is a fucking super team. And you got two guys averaging over 30 teaming up, that is a super team. Stop capping because it's Giannis and Dame. Stop. We gonna keep it 100. We gonna keep it real over here, man. So let's go on to the Boston Celtics. They say it's not a super team, right? Oh, also, even if you add in Aaron Gordon, right? They still don't crack 80. They still don't. So, you know, hey, it is what it is. Let's talk about the Boston Celtics. We have to say big four because you have four all-star caliber players on the team. You do. It's just a fact. It's a big four. And Jason Tatum last season averaged 30 points. Jaylen Brown, 26 points. Drew Holiday, 19 points. Kristaps Porzingis, 23 points. That comes up to 98 points. This is a projection just based on their big four. That is 98 points. How is that not a super team? How is that not a super team? I am not talking about role players. I'm talking about guys that legitimately can make an all-star team. Guys that can actually make all NBA. This is a fucking super team. Stop the cap. Just because y'all don't like KD or LeBron, James Harden or Kyrie Irving, that does not mean that y'all give them the flack. But all these other players that are teaming up now, they're not on super teams. You're trying to downplay them teaming up, downplay them stacking the deck just because you like them more. All these niggas are on super teams. The niggas that are contenders that are not perceived as being on super teams are the Denver Nuggets, the LA Lakers, the 76ers, the Miami Heat, the Golden State Warriors, the Sacramento Kings. They're not really contenders, but we'll see. Those are the guys that are not on super teams. Because are the Philadelphia 76ers not perceived as a decent team even though they're imploding? Are they not perceived, or for the last couple years, have they not been perceived as a top team in the East? Even though Miami Heat lost a few players, have they not been perceived as the peak players? Because guess what? They said, oh, if they got Dame, that puts them over the top, right? They didn't get Dame. So what, did they fall to a lottery team? No, they're still projected to be a really good team in the East. But guess what they said? Oh, it's just a two-man race in the Eastern Conference. Why is that? Because the Heat are a good team. The 76ers are a good team. The Atlanta Hawks got two all-stars, even though they're not current. But it's like, you know, two all-stars nonetheless. You know, the Brooklyn Nets are a solid team. What makes the Boston Celtics and the Milwaukee Bucks so far ahead of everybody in the East? Because they're fucking super teams. That's why, nigga. That's why. Why is nobody talking about the Atlanta Hawks? Because they don't have, 4 All-NBA guys on their damn team. All defensive guys. They don't have that. Sure, DeJounte Murray might make a all-defensive third team, but, you know, these are not juggernauts. These are good teams to decent teams. Regular teams that can make regular playoff teams. These other guys are super teams. The Phoenix Suns are a super team. When you have no depth and no bench, that's a representation of how top heavy you are. That's crazy, man. And the thing is, we're not talking about Derek White for the Celtics. Like, Derek White is also elite too, but it's just crazy to me how people will call the big 3 Brooklyn Nets, right? The Heatos, the Golden State Warriors with Kevin Durant, a super team, right? But you want to know something that's so funny, bro? Something that's just so crazy. The projection of the Milwaukee Bucks average more than the Heatos, right? The Boston Celtics, big 4, definitely would average more than the Heatos and the Golden State Warriors, right? But yet, they're not super teams. They're not super teams. They're just really good teams, right? Then why the hell are people voting for the Milwaukee Bucks to be just heads on shoulder favorites to win the championship? Nobody's talking about Denver. They're the reigning champions. The Denver Nuggets are a really good team. All they lost was Bruce Brown and Jeff Green, even though Bruce Brown is a really big piece. But it's like, those guys have played together for years. Why is nobody talking about them? Why? Why is nobody talking about the Golden State Warriors? They still have their core. That's because, sure, the Lakers are going to talk about because the Lakers tax, of course. But why are only people talking about Phoenix, Milwaukee, Boston? Why are those the favorites that come out of each conference? Of course, Boston and Milwaukee are going to have to duke it out. But listen, I'm just going based on everything because Klay Thompson and Chris Middleton, sure, you could say Klay Thompson is better, but it's like they put up damn near the same fucking points. Prime Chris Middleton and prime Klay Thompson have put up the same fucking points. You know? Right? Giannis, KD, same fucking points. And we're not talking about Giannis averaging fucking 12 rebounds. That's one thing that we're not even including, bruh. The Phoenix Suns ain't got no top level defenders. Giannis and Chris Middleton are all defensive type of players, you know, along with Brook Lopez. He's not even part of the big 3, right? Like, bro, the Brooklyn Nets didn't have any all defensive guys outside of Nick Claxton, even though he hasn't made an all defensive team, but he's of that caliber. But we didn't count him back when KD and Kyrie were there because, well, along with Harden, because he wasn't getting playing time like that. He was injured. But the Heatos, yes, you could say, okay, these guys were elite on defense, right? The Golden State Warriors, they had other guys surrounding them that made them, you know, elite on defense. But these other teams are still averaging more points. The Milwaukee Bucks have the defense and the motherfucking offense, right? The Boston Celtics have OD offense and OD defense. They're insane. So how are they not super teams? When on paper, they're the same shit that y'all called these other teams before they even teamed up, before the season even started. When the trade happened, y'all said these were super teams. So how are the Milwaukee Bucks and the Boston Celtics not super teams when they fit the criteria of the shit that y'all established for the other teams? That's what I'm saying. So it's like me, I done broke it down. I done talk my shit. I done say everything I can do. Well, say everything I can say. But I'm speaking facts. Somebody tell me if I'm wrong. Y'all can say Kristaps Porzingis is injury prone, right? But that's what every fucking super team. Every super team is going to have some level of drawbacks. It's a super team. It's a double-edged sword. You're either going to go all the way and win because Dame, he's injury prone at this point. So is Chris Middleton. But guess what? They still have them as the favorites. So obviously that does not matter enough to sway the odds. So it's like, dude, all I'm saying is this. Let's keep it real. Let's keep it real. They're super teams, and that's okay. That's fine. But the reason why people don't want to be called, super teams, because people don't want it to discredit, them winning a championship like they do Kevin Durant. Because sure, they didn't face off and win against them in a series, but the end result is the same. Y'all teaming up together because y'all couldn't get it done. Y'all still teaming up together. So we can talk about, Giannis not wanting to train with other players in the offseason, but yet you want Damian Lillard. You backstabbed Drew Holiday and shipped his ass off. And then the Boston Celtics picked him up. It's like, dude, these are super teams, and that's okay. Y'all don't want to discredit these players if they win. Y'all don't want to discredit. If you discredit KD's championships, you're going to have to discredit Jason Tatum's. You're going to have to discredit Giannis and Dame's. You're going to have to discredit that. So it's like, dude, y'all can't have y'all cake and eat it too. Y'all can't, if these niggas are not super team, KD and Steph were not a super team. The Heatles were not a super team. The Nets Big Three were not a super team. Y'all got to keep the same energy. If y'all don't, I will. Because I'm not playing favorites. Sure, Kevin Durant's my second favorite player of all time, but this nigga loves stacking the deck. So does LeBron. So does Jason Tatum. This nigga was trying to get Dame there too. You feel me? So apparently Giannis is the same way. You know what talent you got on your team, and you bringing in Damian Lillard. You know what that's going to do. You said, let's go win this chip. When he first arrived, you text him, let's go win this chip. You didn't say, let's try to win this chip. You said, let's go win this chip, because the projection is y'all are going to dominate. People were like, oh man, the East is done. Just let's skip to the finals. Let's skip to the Eastern Conference Finals, because the talent that they have on their team just topples over every other decent to middle of the pack team, because they are super teams. Yes, they are. Y'all can lie to yourselves. Y'all can play favorites. Y'all can be disingenuous, but I'm not. They're super teams, and that's all I got to say about it, man. Hey, y'all just keep it real, man. Peace.